Today we're going to be talking about no ice. You have an LG refrigerator and you have no ice. What are the things you can do to hopefully prevent having to call a service technician to your home? And what we're going to do is talk about those things. Now the first thing obviously is there power to the refrigerator? Is it plugged in? That doesn't mean you need to pull it out and have a meter. It just means maybe open the door, do the lights come on? Hey, you got power. Now, if you had a storm or a tornado, hurricane, and you've noticed the power in your house is dimmer, then yes, you may need an electrician to verify proper voltage. But just to make sure we have voltage, we have power, just making sure your display works. That is probably the easiest thing you can do. The second thing I'm going to tell you is based on how old or how long the unit's been sitting there. For brand new installations, you're not going to see a lot of ice for the first 24 to 48 hours. It takes about 24 hours of the unit being plugged in to remove all the heat and start producing ice. So give it a day or so before you think, uh-oh, I got a problem here. The other thing is it cold enough? A lot of people don't put the fact that if the freezer is not cold enough, or the ice room in this case, we don't get ice. LG ice makers need about 19 degrees or less to make ice. So to check that, depending on if your ice maker's here in the door or in many models, there could be a second one, or it could be your only one in the freezer. Take and place a thermometer in this area, leave it there for about an hour, go back and look at it and see, is the temperature where the ice maker is below 19 degrees. The other thing, especially if it's new, but also when it's old, somebody may have accidentally turned the ice maker off. Now, most of our ice makers have an on-off switch right here, located here. Some models are up and down, but if the ice maker is turned on, but you're not getting any ice, what I would suggest you do is turn it off and then turn it back on. So that way you're kind of rebooting it a little bit and see if that helps. Now, on some of our ice makers, you won't find an on-off switch there, but if you look at your display board, there'll be a button that says ice maker on and off. And we have seen a lot of those models where somebody accidentally turns it off there. So especially if you got little ones that like to touch buttons. Now, if that's the case, there is a lock feature where you could actually push and hold that button and it locks this display from being activated. All right, so we talked about power. Is it cold enough? Is it turned on? Now the other thing, LG basically uses three types of ice makers. We have a flex tray, which is what I just showed you. We have one that looks like it's a heater type. It's called a custom cube. Then we have our older flex tray. Each one of those models has a way of determining if this bucket's full. This one has a little bail arm here that every time it cycles, that bail arm goes down, and if it hits ice, it tells the maker, hey, let's don't make any more because we're full. Some have a little paddle arm that comes up and down, and some have an infrared sensor that shoots a beam of light across this bucket, and if it hits ice, it tells the unit, hey, we're full. But once you begin using ice, it drops below, the beam says, hey, we're clear, and it starts making ice again. Now, the other thing is the water turned on. Now, if you have an ice and water dispenser, a very easy way to check would just be get a glass, make sure you're turned to water, and that verifies that we have water to the refrigerator. Now, while we're talking about water pressure is critical for the proper production of ice. You need somewhere between 20 and 120 psi of ice when there's no filter involved, and you need 40 to 120 with a filter involved. Now, if you believe your water pressure may be a little too low or way too high, instead of calling a technician out, if you're so inclined, you could actually go to Home Depot, Lowe's, any of the hardware stores, and purchase a water pressure gauge. What this gauge does is you can screw it onto an outdoor faucet. It's called a hose bib, or you can screw it on where your washing machine, disconnect the washing machine hose and screw it on there. Then turn the water on and it will tell you your water pressure. A lot of homeowners have these, especially if you're in areas where you have to have a pressure regulator. After several years they go bad. I just experienced that at my house, so I've got one of these at home, and periodically I'll turn it on and just check what my water pressure is. But these can alert you to problems that could not only affect your ice making, but things in your home. Now, the other things, this would be especially true for a brand new installation. Let's say your display won't take commands. Or you open up the door slowly and you see the light still on in the refrigerator even though the door was shut. Now you can verify that one of two ways. On older products, they actually had little push button switches up here. On the newer products, we use what's called a reed switch, and you need a magnet. So you can actually open the door, and there would be a switch with a little button. You'd push it in, the light should go on and off. The newer units use what's called a reed switch. There's actually a magnet right here, and when it gets close to here, it tells it, hey, door's shut, cut the light off. Now I've got a small magnet, and if I hold it right up here, I get my lights to go off. You could do the same thing in your home, and if you put a magnet up here and you can't get the lights to turn off and it's a new installation, if they pulled the doors off to bring your refrigerator in the home, not only did they take this cover off, but there are wiring connections that go to that switch. And if they forgot to plug them in, the unit does not know when the door opens and closes. So what will happen is it will cease ice production. It won't allow the ice to go on because it says, hey, the door's open. We don't need to make ice, and it's not going to get cold enough either. So the installer, whether it's yourself or an installation company, they should come back in and check those connections. All right. Now, the other thing is your refrigerator set correctly as far as temperatures. When you touch this board, you wake it up. LG suggests that you set your temperatures at 0 and 37. When you go less than 0, you're not really gaining anything other than costing yourself more money to run the refrigerator. And 37 has been tested to find out that that's pretty much the best temperature to store dairy products for the longest life. All right. Now, so you've had the refrigerator a while, we're not making ice, and you've gone through some of these things I'm telling you. The other thing to look at is right here. If you touch the display and wake it up, and instead of seeing your temperatures, you're seeing like EFF. That's telling you that is an error code, that there is a problem with your refrigerator. Now, if you get an error code, you should call in for service. That error code's telling you that there is something wrong with your refrigerator. So if there's an error code, that could be the reason you're not cooling properly. So when you call in for service, be sure to tell them what you're seeing on the display. All right. Now, the other thing is your filter correctly installed. Now, depending on the unit you have, LG could have their filter up here at the top. There's a little drop down. But on many of our newer units, you're going to remove this bucket, and the filter is right here. So it comes out about 45 degrees, grasp it and turn it and just pull straight out. Now, to reseat it, you'll get the new filter. It'll have plastic on it. You take the plastic and pull the cap off. You're going to take and stick this filter in. You'll feel when it lines up, and then push and turn about a quarter turn. It'll lock in. Push it in. Place your bucket in. And that hides it. Now, when you replace your filter, that filter has got air in it right now. So after you replace the filter, so you don't wind up getting air in your lines, we suggest you get a pitcher, come over here, place it on water, and purge about a gallon, gallon and a half of water. Just pull it out and dump it, pull it out and dump it. And that way you're getting the air out of the lines. So let's say if you didn't do that, your ice maker, instead of getting the amount of water it needs to make 12 cubes, because of the air, it made 4. So it could actually cause a problem there. So it's always best when you replace the filter, purge it to get the air from the lines. Hopefully, this little tutorial video today will help you determine if your no ice condition is something you can take care of or you need to call the service technician. I would like to note one other thing. When you purchase and replace your filter, please use an LG filter. So hopefully today what we've covered about no ice in your LG refrigerator will help you possibly prevent a service call and get you back to producing ice. On behalf of LG, have a great day.